Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience as I continue learning the ways of the baby yams and the squidlets. Yammie Noob couldn't make it today because he's off on one of his many adventures, but at least I'm here, your lovable uncle with a crush on Tina Fey, who read 50 Shades of Grey. I'm Yammie J. Today we're going to go over where your motorcycle was made. Now, before you start saying it was made in Japan, it's a Kawasaki, or that my Harley was made in America, you might be surprised at where the parts are produced and where they're ultimately assembled before going to a dealership. Just because a bike originated in one country doesn't guarantee it's always been produced there. So without further delay, let's dive right into this. Who makes what and where? For the most part, bikes are made where the manufacturer resides. So if you own a bike from the Big Four, then your bike was probably made in Japan. If you bought a Harley or an Indian, then it is indeed American-made. Flagship models are normally produced in the home country, so Suzuki wouldn't produce the Hayabusa overseas, nor would Kawasaki produce the H2 anywhere but Japan. So, are all bikes made in the country that we think they are? Negative. Aprilia and Ducati are made in Italy, while all but one model of BMW is produced in Germany. KTM, an Austrian company, has the most bikes made in a different country. The more you know. Some companies have entire factories in different countries. Why? Because remember how we discussed bikes that never made it to the US? It's because of the associated cost to export these bikes, and based on the volume of sales within that country. Honda has an entire factory in Brazil. With it comes the responsibility to manufacture most of the motorcycles for all of South America. Now, Honda has a plant in Argentina as well, but it isn't as productive as the Brazil plant. Who rides these bikes? Considering the rural nature of South America, dual sport bikes reign supreme. Police, military, and civilians all benefit from using motorcycles. Remember, the roads down there aren't as developed as in the US, so it makes sense for Honda to produce smaller displacement bikes with interchangeable parts in Brazil, and only sell to the South American market. It became its own self-sustaining bike economy. Wouldn't want to screw that up and start shipping to the US now, would you? Let's take a minute and talk about a few bikes you can get a hold of. I am talking about Yammie Noob's Beginner Bike Giveaway Series. Now, we have a Suzuki DRZ 400, a Kawasaki Ninja 400, and a Honda CB650R that can be won. Whoa, Yammie, how do we win these bikes? I am so glad you asked. Hop on to yammienoob.co, then pick up a subscription tier. Every tier includes immediate entries to win these bikes, plus goodies such as access to our Discord server where you can hang out with Yammie or submit content to our channel. Killer. Not feeling a subscription? Head on over to yammie.noobmerch.com and check out our new designs. For every $1 you spend, you'll get one entry for the giveaway bikes. Your bike might be from India. Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha, Kawasaki, KTM, and BMW all have a presence in India. So why is this? The market for motorcycles and scooters is huge in India. It's cheaper and more economical for the companies to build a factory or work with a company established in India than it is to try to export the volume to India. Did I mention that there are over 37 million motorcycles in India alone? Now you might begin to understand the importance of having a factory, a parts supplier, and everything needed to support India by itself. For any bike manufacturer, India is a market that needs to be capitalized. Forget the Hayabusa market or the leader bike market. The real money is in what people ride in India. There's nothing to be jealous about because most of the motorcycles in India are capped at the 300cc engine size. It's common to see all of these companies offer at least one India-only model that's produced and sold specifically for the Indian market. And it's not just size that matters. The price of the bike matters as well. India has leader bikes for sale, but finding a true purpose for such a motorcycle is going to be difficult in the crowded streets. There really isn't that big of a market for bikes without a reasonable purpose besides racing. In the good old US of A, you can take your leader bike for a run through the triple digits. Although illegal, it's definitely possible. In other countries, it might be extremely difficult to do so the average bike is a 300cc. When it comes to exporting from India, KTM takes the cake. Together with Bajaj, KTM produces the Duke 200 and 390 along with the RC 200 and 390. These four bikes are not sold in India specifically, which speaks for the manufacturing capability that Bajaj has in India. BMW produces the G310R and the G310GS in India, but sells them internationally. Suzuki has a line of bikes including the Gixxer 125 and 250 that are produced and sold in India. They're not available in the US. Where we get the GSX 250R instead doesn't even deserve to be called a Gixxer. The Honda CBR 250RR, that badass rocket we just talked about not being available in America, it's produced by Astra Honda Motors in Indonesia. Speaking of Honda and how they still keep bikes from us, anything produced in Brazil is also not available to us. The CB300R is even Brazil only, with riders in the UK complaining about its lack of European availability. Where are the parts from? It's not uncommon for a manufacturer of anything, not just motorcycles, to source parts from different factories located in different countries. When you consider the cost to produce a part or a component that's rather complex, like an engine, a lot of labor time goes into its production. Companies will factor the cost associated with production against the cost to export or import the product, then finally assemble the end product. Have you ever wondered why flagship cars like the Corvette or the Nissan GT-R cost so much? They're made at home. Where both companies have factories in different countries, the Corvette is made in America in Bowling Green, Kentucky, while the GT-R with its hand-built engine is made in Nissan's Tochigi plant. Because of the homegrown location, labor is higher, causing the cost of the vehicle to go up. Now, don't get excited and try to get any company to open a plant in any underdeveloped nation for the hope of having a cheaper leader bike or sports car. It just doesn't work out that way. When people get in a tizzy about where their bikes are made, they begin looking at where the components are from and then even the country of origin. Pros of subsidiary production. If you're wondering if there's any benefit to having your bike made in India or somewhere else, there actually is. The biggest pro is that the market in that other country is going to propel your bike forward. The next generations will have more improvements. The price of the parts will be lower compared to bikes with weaker sales figures, regardless of where it's made. And your bike's overall cost will be lower. This is economics, or economics, however you want to say it. Having something mass-produced is a lot cheaper to fix than something that's a special edition with only 99 other matching serial numbers. Remember, when a company decides to produce a product in a different country, it's to reduce cost somewhere. Be it in the manufacturing process, sales price, or time required to make the motorcycle, there's a cost savings benefit somewhere. No one just decides to invest millions of dollars into a production facility to not turn a profit. Durr. Another pro is the availability of the aftermarket and its lowered prices. When you look at performance parts for an expensive bike, well, they're expensive. But why? There isn't a huge demand for the Ninja H2 slip-on exhaust, or there really isn't a demand for a power commander that tunes your Augusta. Catch my drift? If everyone, or even 5% of India's motorcycle population rides the same bike that you do, you can guarantee there will be a demand for frame sliders, maybe an exhaust system, and other modifications. Mass-produced bikes have the cheapest costs for everything. The cons. If you're riding a bike in America that's influenced and produced by a different country, things can change drastically on the next generation in a bad way. If your bike is made in India and no one in India seems to care for the Showa forks or Brembo brakes, that might be something that's eliminated on the next generation. It could be a cost savings measure that they don't mind over there, but in the US, riders would feel differently about it. Another thing would be the regulations in the origin country compared to the ones in yours. Power limitations, engine size limitations, and even speed limitations of the country the bike is produced in might very well limit what happens during production. Consider how Europe's emissions regulations are literally controlling how our beloved leader bike engines are being made. Just because Ducati doesn't have to do anything special for the US market, it isn't stopping them from making sure every single one of their bikes meets European regulations. Total bummer. Another con is parts availability. Let's say you manage to import a Honda XRE 300, one that's made in Brazil, and now have to buy fairings for it. How do you get them? Your local Honda dealership probably can't get a hold of them, and neither can independent shops. You might be left to ordering overseas from factory direct, a dealership in the sales region, or from websites like eBay. It's a risky situation when you import something not sold or supported by your domestic region. That's something to consider when you try to bring something else over. Is it really made in America? When you look at the most famous American motorcycle company in the world, Harley-Davidson, do you think it's entirely made in the US? Assembly is finished in one of 3 US states, but the components come from different countries. Does this make the Harley-Davidson any less American? The Harley is assembled in America with parts from a different country, such as electronics from Mexico or China, suspension parts from Japan, and clutch components from Italy. When components are made by experts in certain locations, this is called specialization, and I don't blame Harley-Davidson for having a clutch coming from Italy. If they can make a better clutch for a motorcycle, why should Harley-Davidson bother with trying to compete with their lower costs and higher quality? When cars began to have Brembo brakes, made in Italy, standard, it wasn't anything that anyone frowned upon. People craved the OEM performance parts and were thrilled. But if a gauge cluster's made in China, people be skeptical. Well, don't be. It's just economics. Sure, there might be some hiccups or a learning curve after a new plant is opened and parts become produced, but in the long run, it's to save the consumer, you, money and give you a great product too. Let the suspension experts build the suspension for your bike, no matter where they're located. The decision to buy. Don't let the country of manufacture be one of the reasons why you decide to buy one bike over another. In today's global economy, even bikes made in Japan are not entirely produced in Japan. It's too common, but very economical to manufacture components in different countries and assemble bikes elsewhere. There's going to be that one snob or even boomer, there, I said it, that tries to avoid a certain country of manufacture. Let go of the past, man. You cannot reasonably think that you'll live the rest of your life without purchasing, using, nor needing a product made in a foreign country, such as Japan, Korea, Vietnam. Yes, those are the 3 Asian countries where Americans fought wars, but we fought in Italy and Germany with no boycotts of their products, okay? Well, that's going to do it for today's video. Do you know where your bike is made? If it surprised you, leave us a comment. We'll read it. Probably we'll do a part 2. I'll catch you guys the next time Yammie is out. Fact: when an alligator is blocking the path of a manatee, the manatee will give it a nudge or a bump. The alligator will then give it the right of way. Goodbye.